Hi kittens, I'm Julie Savone, psychedelic facilitator, integration expert, and your guide for this wild ride, the Inner Trip, 365 days with plant medicine. I've helped hundreds of people use plant medicine, primarily psilocybin, to heal, expand, and step into their next level. But this year, I'm taking it even deeper. For the next 365 days, I'm bringing you with me. I'll be microdosing, journeying, integrating, and exploring what it really means to live a limitless life, with plant medicine as a tool, not a crutch. So if you're ready to feel more alive, more clear, more limitless, and you're down to do it with mushrooms and a little bit of sass, you're in the right place. Let's take the inner trip. Hello, kittens! My intention today is to share with you my most recent acid trip. It was such a beautiful experience. I love acid so much. It is by far my favorite psychedelic. Like, if mushrooms are the thing that you get to do to really like be in the trenches and work through all the stuff, acid is the sprinkles on the cupcake. It is absolutely magical. So let's get into it. I know I shared on the last podcast, but the plan was to do the exact formula for my international retreats, which is mushrooms one day, pause for a full day, and then acid the next day. And what ended up happening was it was Halloween and Choopy had thrown up. And Choopy, my dog, like never gets sick. He's only gotten sick one other time. And I was just worried. I was thinking like, oh my goodness, this is going to somehow come up on the trip and I'm not going to be able to like take him to the vet or something. Like, what if it gets worse? And so it just became a thing where I didn't want to do the mushrooms because I think that would have really taken away from my trip. And like, I didn't want anything to happen to him, and then I would be incapacitated and like not able to drive him, right? Microdosing can totally drive. Full trip, absolutely not. And that's what I also think is so important about having a facilitator. Like, I wish that I had a facilitator here because then obviously I would have made plans for someone to take care of my dog and my cats, and like I would be able to be fully immersed in the experience. I don't have a facilitator here, but that's why coming on a retreat and having a facilitator is so special because it removes all these kind of worries, right? Like, I know moms still want me to text their husbands afterward and be like, hey, like, how are the kids? But you know, like, someone has got the kids, someone has got your animals. Like, you don't have to worry about anything when you're in the retreat space. And that's why, you know, if you don't, like, there will always be an excuse, and I mean, this idea of an excuse is going to come back up. So don't lose that thread. Believe me, even I make excuses. So I ended up not. It just didn't feel like the right thing. It was also going to be Halloween. I was like, oh my god, what if a little kid rings my doorbell and then like I have to figure this out and I'm on mushrooms? So it's like, no, we're not doing that. But I was still feeling this call. I was like, you know what? I really want to do acid. It's been a couple months. It's my favorite psychedelic. Let's do LSD. So Sunday, had everything prepped, and I remembered, right, from my mushroom journey that I share with you guys and integrated, there was a big lack of reverence. And so I did the whole thing. Like, there was a blessing, there was an altar that I made. I got really clear on my intention and present with all of it. And anyone who says that psychedelics are a drug or they're addictive, like, has never done them, because even though I'm a facilitator, I have so much resistance. Like, even though I was very clear that I wanted to do that and I knew that there was going to be a breakthrough for me in my acid journey, man, it was hard. It was hard to do. I really didn't want to. And so, you know, it's not just me anecdotally, like, what's that called? A confirmation bias, like saying this. Like, there's tons of research that says animals, like rats in particular, will not go back to like the levers that produce psilocybin and LSD. They really only want to go back to like nicotine, alcohol, cocaine, etc. So, non-habit forming. Psychedelics are completely non-habit forming, and they actually help break addictions. I just want to put that out there. And anyone who says otherwise has definitely never done them, because I have done my fair share. And I don't really like, the thing is, I know that there's awesome things on the other side of it, but it can be uncomfortable and is a lot. And especially time, like acid is a long journey. And so it's like, oh, I don't know that I want to do this, but I did it. And immediately I went out to paint. I don't think that I've talked about this on the podcast yet, but this year I started getting really into IFS, internal family systems, and I've been mapping out different clusters within me, different parts that say different things. And so my last acid trip, I painted the part of me that self-sabotages. And so what I would do is I would go through the exercise first, and then I would map it like on just like a sheet of paper, just like a quick sketch, and then I would take it and I would paint. And here's the thing, like, no one, maybe besides my mom, God bless her, I feel like she doesn't really feed into my delusions, but maybe this is the one. No one's going to be like, you're an artist, babe. Like, oh my God. The next Rembrandt, Van Gogh, Georgia O'Keeffe needed to throw a woman in there because feel like the only ones that I could think of were men. No one's saying that about me, but painting is therapeutic for me in that way. And I don't need to be good. I don't think that I'm good. It feels good. And that's what's most important, the feeling from which you get, the feeling you get from something. And so I had painted the system, the part of me that self-sabotages. And so last week I had mapped out another cluster within myself on a quick sketch. And what came up was the part of me that is afraid of the work that I do, of being seen in the work that I do. If you know me, you're probably thinking she is not afraid of being seen. And that's true. Like, I'm not afraid to take up space and be loud and, wild and have eyes on me, right? But the work that I do is controversial. Like, just this last week, I had a podcast host where we did a pre-interview, and she was like, yeah, I'd love to have you on. And then in an email was like, we don't want to have your topic on the show. And that's fine. No one owes me a platform, right? Like, no one owes me to come on their show. So it's not like I'm a spoiled little brat. That's not the energy. It's like people don't want to talk about psychedelics because it is controversial. And that's also okay. I get that. Like, that's their right to say, I don't want to have the conversation. But it is, like, disheartening as well. Because there's so much misinformation that I get to, like, battle. And I know that, like, that is the bucket I've chosen in life. I was trying to think of the phrase. Maybe someone can remind me. But that's what I've decided to carry in my backpack and carry it through life. And I believe in it so wholeheartedly. So I understand that it's a choice, and no one owes me the opportunity to dispel myths and propaganda and fake news, and that I get to do that on my own platform, especially on Instagram and here, obviously. But it is hard, and it's hard because this government feels really authoritarian and scary. And I've even said, I understand that I'm not a black person selling marijuana, in the 1980s when people went away for like 40 years for this thing that is now mostly legal everywhere. So, and I know that I'm probably not going to be made an example of in that way, but it's still, like, it's challenging. It's hard. The more that I put myself out there on platforms, on this one, on other people's shows, getting in more groups, it's like there is a lot of fear that comes up for me. And so I really wanted to map that system. And so I painted it, and in the middle of, like, the cluster, when I was feeling into the exercise, the image that came up for me was a lock. And so I had Googled, like, locks, like a traditional, like, not a lock you put on your locker, but like a lock with a key in the middle. And I found this, like, little cutesy one, and it was a heart. It was like, oh, I'll draw that one on my painting. And so I painted, and I painted gold, and I'm really getting into the painting, and, like, I'm using my fingers, and it feels great, right? It's so not something that I would normally do because I don't feel creative in that way. Yes, I like to create content. Yes, I'm here. Yes, I like to write, but, like, visual arts is just something that feels totally different for me. And when I step back and I'm looking at it, I'm like, the heart in the middle is literally a heart of gold. This part of me that is so scared to be seen is a heart of gold. And I'm not sitting here thinking I'm Mother Teresa. Like, I don't think anyone's going to give me a Nobel Peace Prize. I don't think I'm a perfect person. I know I've done shitty things. I know I've hurt people. I know that sometimes my words can hurt. Like, I am a very flawed, imperfect human being, but at the center of why I do what I do is a heart of gold. It truly comes from the best place in the world of wanting people to be able to liberate themselves from the pain and the suffering of the past traumas, of societal and familial expectations, from the ways they have broken trust with themselves, to, like, let go of this shame and this guilt and this judgment of self toward others so that they can start to enjoy life. Like, life is hard. I've been through loss and sadness and resentment and disappointment. And I know that in every day there is the opportunity to experience joy. At the end of the day, my work is about helping people liberate themselves from suffering so that they can access greater levels of joy in their life. And it's a really pure mission. It's not muddied. It's clean. It's a very clean mission. And so to see that painting there and, like, have that reflected back to me, and I haven't shared a picture of it on Instagram or anything. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll keep that one to myself for a while. I don't know. But it was soothing. It was soothing to the heart. And so then I decided, oh my gosh, like it's such a beautiful fall day. And I love fall so much. I know people, I just moved from California, are like, why the heck would you leave California to go back to the Midwest? And maybe it's because I grew up here, right? I grew up not in Kansas City, but I grew up in Iowa. I grew up in the Midwest. Um, that I have such a deep reverence and appreciation for the cyclical nature of life. And so I saw it mirrored every year growing up, right? And California, in a lot of ways, just felt like Groundhog Day. Like every day is kind of the same, like weather wise. And it felt like, yes, I did have so many transformations there, right? I left the law, I started coaching, I started psychedelic facilitation. Like I healed a lot of my sisterhood wounds. That was really the place where I learned how to make really good friends with other girls. Like, yes, there was a lot that happened, but it doesn't like always feel like that in the reflection of it because it's so the same all the time. And so, when people think about like why would you move back to the Midwest, right now is my favorite time. I love fall. It's crispy, the air smells good, the leaves are falling, like the colors are beautiful, like it's a little chilly. I like fall clothes. I'm an autumn season color wise. If you know, you know. I was like, wow, it's such a beautiful day. I'm taking Chupi for another walk. We had already gone on one walk that day. And so we're walking, and I didn't have my phone with me. I did have sunglasses on. I feel a little bad. Like if I were to like stumble across my friend and they were going to talk to me and I was on acid, I'd be like, hey, I'm on LSD. Just so like, it's more like a consent sort of, or not a consent, but it's a transparency thing maybe. Like you can choose. Yeah, it is kind of an informed consent, right? Like interact and talk to me at your own risk, essentially. Now that like I'm not incapacitated, but I do feel sort of bad when I'm out walking and like this little kid wanted to come pet Choopy because he's a puppy and he's so cute. And so I was like, oh yeah, you can pet him. He's very friendly. But of course, I'm not going to say to his mom, like, I'm on LSD, right? I'm totally fine. I'm not acting weird, but I am like inebriated, quote unquote. But I guess like people walk around drunk and no one's like, I'm drunk. Well, actually, I've definitely said that as a drunk girl, but like most people probably don't say that. So anyway, this little kid pets Choopy, and then we keep walking, and we're making like a loop that I make a lot, almost like every day with Choop, um, in the back neighborhood. And I'm coming down, and this woman and two older women pop out of a car and they're like, "Oh my God, your dog!" And they want to pet him. And one woman goes, "What's your dog's name?" And I say, "Choopy." And she goes, "Choopy? I had a Choopy. He was 16. He died last year." And the other woman, who turns out to be her sister, goes, "Choopy like Chupacabra?" And I was like, "Yeah. Choopy like Chupacabra." She's like, "Well, our Choopy was Choopy like Chupacabra." I was like, she said, like the Mexican folklore creature. And I was like, yes. It was so weird, you guys. Like, I don't know if you know what a chupacabra is. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but like no one understands when I say chupi or chupacabra. Like my mom was very freaking confused. She had never heard of that. She was like, "Why are you naming your dog this?" So maybe my mom is just a little like more sheltered and ignorant in that respect. I'm not sure, but no one has been like, Choopy like Chupacabra yet. And this woman was. Turns out they were sisters. The one had named the other's dog, and they were so excited to meet Choopy because obviously their Choopy had died. And I was just like, it was something. It was this really interesting synchronicity. And so then I started thinking, when we see 1111 on the microwave, or perhaps a song that reminds us of our grandpa comes on the radio, or we meet these women who had a dog named Choopy like Chupacabra, and they live like 5 minutes away from me in this, little neighborhood. Yes, sometimes we think these things have like specific meaning, and if they do to us, that's great. If it means something to us and it works for us, that's awesome. Like if you see 1111 and you think my wishes are coming true, or if you hear the song and you think my grandpa like is communicating with me from the beyond or whatever, that's amazing. And at the end of the day, I think the higher message, like the bigger point, is that synchronicities are sparkles, breadcrumbs, signs from the universe, from God, from your intuition, from your higher self, like whatever works for you, like Christ consciousness, that you are on the path. You're like operating on a timeline and on a path that's in a higher state of consciousness, like a path of greatest expression of like your fullest potential, right? Like we have different timelines that we always have access to, and anything is possible at all times. And some timelines are closer to actualization, enlightenment, sort of the highest evolution of our soul's order, and some paths are further away from that. That's okay. There's no judgment here. But when these things happen, it feels like a sort of a little golden star that says, hey, like You are there. And when suffering happens, right? When we're feeling really like, ugh, heavy and yeah, that's a sign that we are not traversing the path of like the highest order of our soul and actualization. Right. And so I know I shared like recently my journeys have brought up a lot of like struggle bus feelings. I guess I'll call them in a general way. And so this last week, it's been a lot of me looking at, okay, like what doesn't actually feel like it is a reflection of my values? Where have I veered off the track of my soul's highest evolution? And so it's been a lot of letting go of things. And sometimes letting go feels really like counterintuitive. And it can feel like doing less, it can be scary because it can feel like we don't trust it. And like, what if I do less and then it all falls apart? But I've really gotten clear on like, does this feel good or does this feel like suffering? And the things that feel like suffering, I have said no to. And so to me, it was this culmination of like, oh, okay, something is shifting. This is feeling good. Because it was like a bit of a tough week for me. And so we were walking along and we got back to my house and we're in the backyard and we're in the backyard with the cats and I'm laying on the ground. I'm playing with Choopy. The cats are running around. It's fall. The weather is amazing. Like the sun is shining. The leaves are falling. And I think about how beautiful my life is right now. I've always wanted a puppy. I asked for a puppy every single year growing up. I never got one. At 32, I decided to get myself my own puppy. And have I really enjoyed the fact that I have a puppy? Not in the same fullness as I did on my LSD trip, where I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is so fun. You're so cute and you're playful and you're running around and you want to play fetch with me. And I was just like, fully basking in the goodness of like having a puppy and the fall and my cats. And what I got from it was the sense of like, enjoy your life as it is right now. Like there are so many aspects. I know we hear like there are parts of your life that you prayed for. There are parts of your life that you've always wanted. There are parts of your life that are really good that you aren't fully allowing yourself to be present to and enjoy. And, there was a part later in the journey where I was sitting on the couch and I was looking out the window and like, I saw my big tree in my backyard and like my house is so cute and cozy. And I was just like, wow, I don't really like, it's always kind of on to the next, right? Like, oh, I got my next client. Oh, I really should be making some content for Instagram. Oh, let me clean up the kitchen. It's like, where's the joy and the gratitude and the appreciation of what is good? Life is really good. And sometimes we really freaking miss that. And from that feeling of like how good life was, I was sitting in this chair with a blanket around me and the animals were still outside because the sun was setting and I was looking at the tree and sort of like I have sort of a crow's nest view on the neighborhood because my house is a little higher up. And I was just like letting my mind do nothing because at that point I could kind of like look at my phone again. And when I went to pick up my phone, there was like this ickiness. I was like, oh God, it just was making me sick. And so I let my mind kind of do nothing. I was just looking at Choopy, at the trees, at the like neighborhood, and I let myself be bored. And we do not let ourselves be bored. And our brains, until recently, I don't want to put an exact number on it, but it hasn't been that many decades since we've had this like constant barrage of stimulation, specifically from our phones, specifically from the phone. And our brain has become, we used to be way more accustomed to boredom. And boredom is where the ideas flow. Boredom is where we have recalibration and reset. Like boredom is how we get, I like to say you get your fucks back. So when I say fucks, I mean like directed attention. So there's a book, oh gosh, I can't think of what the book is called. I want to say his name is like Callum something. There's also a bunch of research out about this where like you only have so many directed attention widgets where you can really do like highest powered brain work a day. And the only way to reset them is sleep, walking around in green space, or like true rest and boredom. And it was just this reminder, like, God, boredom is powerful. And the phone, every time I go on a journey, I get the same message of like, cut the scroll. And every time it does get easier to scroll and scroll less. But this one was so clear where it was like, yes, like post the content, right? Because that's part of my job. I'm until I can just you know, visualize and a client somehow gets my number and calls me, I will continue to be posting content because that is the business that I'm in. And it's interesting, when I open my phone and go to Instagram, I do usually feel like that post is a specific thing that I needed to hear. So even today, I opened it and there was a post from Jamie C. She's great. And it was like, realistic? We're not realistic around here. It was something like that. I was like, yes, I needed to hear this today. Like, I love this message, but I don't sit there and scroll. And so really allowing yourself to be bored was a huge theme that came up for me on this journey. And I let myself just like sit and do nothing. Like, I didn't try to turn on the TV. I didn't try to read a book. I didn't try to look at my phone. I was just like looking around, being bored, appreciating how good my life was. And so then that evening, because it's a long journey, and I do want to take a second to say acid and mushrooms feel really different. So mushrooms can feel mushy. It can feel like it's hard to get up, or you just don't want to get up. You just want to be like laying down, and they can feel a bit heavy and more grounded in your body. And acid, like, you have energy. Like, I went for a walk. I was like, I could have a conversation. Not that you can't have a conversation on mushrooms, but like also the sight difference is it's different. So on mushrooms, you think more about like colors and shapes, and like things feel wavy. And the best way I know how to describe acid is like, to me on acid, you can tell everything is alive. Like, everything is alive. I'm looking at this computer and it looks solid, right? But the computer is made up of billions of atoms that are moving like very quickly, and there's space in between the atoms. So even though this thing looks really solid, like at its like smallest molecular level, it isn't. And I feel like you can kind of see that with acid. So it is really cool. So once like my vision, and it's a long trip, which is part of why the resistance was there. But once I was kind of coming down, and my vision wasn't so crazy, I went back to reading this book. And there was another synchronicity I cannot believe. So my friend Christine told me to read Mexican Gothic like years ago, because I asked her for good spooky recommendations around Halloween. And the thing is, I don't think a lot of people know this, but I was a Latin American studies major in undergrad. So I love Latino culture. I love the Spanish language. I love learning about indigenous cultures. And like the history with the Incas, the Mayas, and the Aztecs. Like, I love learning about how U.S., like, I don't love U.S. colonialism, hegemony, and neoliberation, but I neoliberalism, but I think it's really interesting to learn about, the coup, Salvador Allende, and the way that we have meddled in foreign affairs. And like, this is, I'm very passionate about it. And so this book incorporates, obviously, Mexican culture. It's Mexican Gothic, and I'm not going to give it away, but there's this whole mushroom thing happening in it too. And I was like, what? Literally combining two of my top interests. And so I finished the book. I was like, wow, I cannot believe like I hadn't read that before, blah, blah, blah. Another really big synchronicity. And so that was my trip. It was really beautiful. I loved it so much. As you can tell, I feel like it shifted a lot of energy for me, which was like so good, so needed. The only constant is change. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. But when I really started to think about like how good can life get, I think about like doing less, putting less in my schedule. Like, I don't like having a jam-packed schedule. Do I sometimes allow it to become that because I am not strict enough in my boundaries with my own time and energy? Yes. So if I really want to think about how good can it get, like, what does my best life look like, it's way more spacious than it has been previously. And so I'm enforcing that. And my intention in the next episode is to share my integration exercise like outcomes with you, because I already taken you through what the exercise is. But when I really think about like how good it can get in the next year, I want to think about like, what is my most ideal life? And I journaled on that question a week ago when I was feeling really off. And it was like, how do I want my business to look in a year with all this space and stuff? And I was like, why wait for a year? Like, make that happen now, right? Anything can happen now. Everything is available to you now. So yeah, I've been really thinking about that spaciousness, and the content I have been consuming online has been content that is really like nourishing my brain. So like, even that person I said, Jamie C, right, looking at her content, and thinking about things that are helping me sort of get onto the path of my soul's highest evolution. And the one thing that I wanted to share now that I've already started doing, because we're really going to break down the like what became clear to me, like where do I get to go with all this, etc. Well, two things: be here now, more moments of presence. So that was really what came up for me, like in the boredom and the enjoyment. Be here now, and I don't know if you let me know if you had already wanted to see me create an episode about Be Here Now and this, like, I'll call it an experiment with like Timothy Leary and Ram Dass, and there's a book, Be Here Now, but I even have it on a bracelet, just simply as a reminder, because presence is the only place like where the infinite future exists. So there is this philosopher who I want to read more of, and one of his ideas, his name is Jacques Derrida. He's a French philosopher. He's dead. Rest in peace, Jacques. He talked about this idea of the infinite future, the absolute future, only exists in a moment of pure presence. Only exists when we're fully dropped into the here and now. So if you want to create in the space of the absolute future where everything is available to you at all times, everything is possible, anything is possible, it requires a state of pure presence. So this doesn't mean like don't have goals, don't, have a vision board or think about what you want in the future, but get really clear on it and then be able to let it go and take action progressively in the future. Where we start to like control too many things and worry too far about the future, like that's when this kind of gets like haywire. And actually research says that we can't create, it's cool to do a visualization like 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. Like I take people through them. I like them. I think it's a good like shift in energy, but you really can only create and like execute on a goal no more than 3 months in advance. So if you have something where you're like, oh, I need to be worried about this thing next year, it's like you can't really control for it now, which is, I think, just another example of like, can we reach a state of pure presence where we're in the moment taking the next best step without trying to control too many things, because we really can't. Like there's so many factors at play, and the only way to play in the space of absolute future is to be present. So there's a lot about the presence and just like not worrying about controlling, like how is this going to happen? Like the how is not your job. Trust, believe, release, and be in the present. And so one thing that I started doing this week every single night is I turn my phone all the way off at night, and then I don't turn it back on in the morning, usually until around 9 a.m. And I've journaled, I've done some breath work or meditation, I've read, I'm reading like Rich as Fuck again. I'm reading The World is a Mirror. This morning I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, like where I really feel like I fed my soul and I'm turning my phone on from a space of peace and being in my own energy. So that's one thing that I'm already doing. So for big lessons, be here now, be present, be bored, enjoy your life for what it is already. Take notice of the ways that the universe is communicating to you that you are on the path of your soul's highest evolution. Look at the parts of you that are scary, right? There's so much goodness there. Actually, the IFS workshop is something that I incorporate at my retreats too. So if you're like, oh, this is interesting, I want to do this, awesome, come to a retreat. And for the integration kittens, what I want you to do is take a couple minutes and think about what in your life is something that you've always wanted, that is really good, that you're maybe not fully appreciating. Maybe that's your kid. Maybe your kid's at a difficult age, or like behaviorally, it's not that fun to be their parent. But maybe you've always wanted a kid, right? And maybe like this stage is temporary. They're only going to be this age for now. So it's like, how can I will look back on this moment and be like, oh, I wish I could see them again at 8, 2, whatever, how old they are. Maybe it's where you live. Maybe you've always wanted to be in Florida and you're there and you have like the iguanas. Ooh, they give me the creepies. But the palm trees, and you're like, oh, this is so beautiful, right? But maybe it's kind of, you've started to take it for granted. So that's a great way to phrase it. What are you taking for granted in your life that you really actually enjoy? And how can you take some time to be present to the goodness of it? That is your integration. And if you want me to record an episode about Be Here Now, DM me on Instagram or like fill out a form on my website or something. Let me know and I'll totally explain the whole thing. So I know I've referenced it a few times. But notice what you're taking for granted. Sink into appreciation for it. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Keep asking yourself, how good can it get? That's the end of today's trip. But remember, the real magic has always been inside of you. If this episode landed, send it to a friend who's ready to step into their next level. And make sure you're following the show so you never miss a dose. I'll be back again soon with another day on the path to your most limitless life. And until then, trust yourself, follow your intuition, and keep asking, how good can it get?